Welcome to The Night Whistler, a story that will send chills down your spine and keep you on the edge of your seat. But this is more than just a thrilling tale. It's also a unique opportunity for you to improve your English while being completely immersed in mystery. As you listen, you'll encounter rich vocabulary, natural expressions, and gripping dialogue, all designed to help you learn in context. Whether you're a language learner or simply love a good story, you're in the right place. So, lean in, listen closely, and if you hear a whistle in the dark, don't answer. Let's begin. It started with a sound. Not a scream, not a voice, not even a footstep, just a whistle, low, off-key, and drifting on the wind like it didn't belong to a person at all, but to the forest itself. In the town of Elmridge, nestled between thick pine woods and crumbling hills, everyone had heard it at least once. A soft whistle just past midnight, somewhere between mournful and playful. Like a song half remembered, hummed by something in the dark. No one could say when it started, but everyone remembered the first time they noticed it. For most, it was just background noise, something unsettling, sure, but not threatening. Elmridge had its share of weird legends, the fox that could talk, the lights that danced by the river. But the whistle was different. It wasn't explained, and it never stopped. Maya Jenkins heard it for the first time when she was 12, sneaking back into the house after curfew. She froze halfway up the back steps, her foot hovering over a loose board, as that haunting tune drifted out of the trees. At first, she thought it was her older brother messing with her, but it wasn't his style. The whistle was soft and deliberate, like it wanted to be heard, like it was searching. Now, 9 years later, the whistle came again, and Maya froze once more. She was no longer a scared kid. 21, living alone in her late grandmother's cottage near the edge of the woods, a veterinary assistant by day, and an amateur night owl by choice. She liked quiet, liked solitude, but not this. The whistle pierced her window, impossibly far and impossibly close. She sat up on the couch, heartbeat quickening. Her dog, Gus, lifted his head from where he was curled beside her. He didn't growl, didn't bark, just stared at the window, ears flat. That worried her more than anything. She muted the TV. The whistle came again. It was a descending tune, 5 notes, trailing downward like a child's lullaby played in reverse. The strange part wasn't the melody, but the silence that followed. The world outside held its breath. No crickets, no wind, just that whistle echoing inside her skull. She stood slowly, eyes on the glass. It was too dark to see anything beyond the faint reflection of her living room. Gus followed, whining under his breath. "I heard it too," she whispered. Maya crossed the room, pulled back the curtains slightly. The trees stood still as statues. Nothing moved. And yet the whistle floated closer, clearer, like it was threading its way between the trunks, creeping closer to her door. She locked it, though she already had. For the next week, the whistle came every night. Always between midnight and 12:30, always drifting from the woods. She started writing it down, timing it. Sometimes it was faint, other times nearly right outside her window. Once, she thought she saw a figure, tall, thin, too pale, but when she blinked, it was gone. She told the sheriff. He nodded like he'd heard it all before. "Happens every few years," he said. "Back in '86, we found some animal bones stacked in patterns. Weird stuff. Folks say they saw a man with no eyes." "Did you investigate?" "We did. Found nothing, but it always stops eventually." She hated that answer. She called her brother, Evan. He drove up 2 days later, bringing his shotgun and half a bottle of bourbon. He slept on the couch and claimed not to hear a thing. But on the 3rd night, he woke her up at 3 a.m., pale and shaking. It whistled outside the door, he said. Maya, it was right there. They stayed up until dawn. Gus growled all night. The next morning, they found footprints in the dirt. Long, narrow prints with toes that were too long. Not bear, not shoe. Something else. And a small pile of stones stacked neatly on her porch, 5 high. Evan wanted her to leave. Stay with me. This place, it's not right. It was tucked inside a book in her grandmother's attic, one she hadn't opened in years. A faded black and white picture, grainy and bent. It showed the old cottage decades ago, and in the foreground, a figure, barely visible, tall, shadowed, standing at the edge of the trees, not looking at the camera, looking away, head tilted, as if listening. On the back, in her grandmother's shaky script, he only whistles for those who hear him. Maya dropped the photo. It slipped under the dresser and she didn't retrieve it. That night, the whistling came back, but it was different now. Longer, closer, persistent. She heard it at 11:58 and again at 12:04. It whistled again at 12:10, then 12:13 as though growing impatient. She sat frozen on the floor, holding Gus close, heart hammering. It was no longer a wandering tune. It was a call, a demand. And then something knocked, 3 slow taps on her back window. She didn't scream. She didn't move. But Gus did. He growled, a sound deep and low, and ran for the window. She followed, too afraid not to. Nothing, just darkness. She slept with the lights on. The next day, she drove into town, bought cameras, floodlights, motion detectors. She set them up around the house. She told herself this wasn't crazy, just cautious. She didn't tell anyone else. That night, the sensors went off at 12:02 a.m. Camera footage showed nothing. No animals, no wind, just silence, and then static, for 27 seconds. She rewound it, over and over. Each time, the static hummed like a voice trying to come through. The whistle returned at 12:30. No knock this time, just that song. Descending, insistent. The next morning, Evan didn't answer his phone. She called Evan 5 times, straight to voicemail. By noon, worry shifted into something colder, dread. He'd never ignore her calls, not since their parents died 5 years ago. She called his neighbor in Ridgewood, who said Evan's truck was in the driveway, but no one answered the door. He hadn't gone to work. His phone was still ringing. Maya hung up before the neighbor finished the sentence. She didn't want to hear what came next. She left Gus at the vet for boarding and drove straight to Ridgewood, 2 towns away. The highway was empty, the sky flat and gray, the radio stuck on static. Her chest tightened with every mile. Evan lived alone. Tough guy, smart ass, ex-Marine, but alone. And the last thing he'd said was, "If you hear it knock again, don't open the door." She arrived just after 3 p.m. His truck was there, like the neighbor said. So was the bourbon bottle, still on the porch rail. The front door was unlocked. "Evan?" she called, stepping inside. She returned to Elmridge that night, Evan's shotgun in the back seat, her hands trembling the entire drive. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching the road behind her, pacing her car, invisible just beyond the reach of her headlights. She didn't sleep. At 12:14 a.m., the whistle came again. Lower now, slower, but unmistakably near. She sat in the dark, shotgun across her knees. The sound came in waves, winding through the trees like a thread pulling her toward something. Then silence. Then a new sound. Another knock, not at the window this time, at the door. 3 slow, deliberate taps. She didn't move. Gus growled low from under the couch. The lights flickered once, and then the motion sensor by the porch lit up. She crawled to the window on her knees, staying low. She peeked. No one there. Just something. On the ground, a photo. She waited until dawn to step outside. The woods looked normal, the air sharp with dew. Birds sang again. The silence had passed like a storm. She picked up the photo carefully, using gloves. It was a picture of her, standing in her kitchen, taken from outside the window. She dropped it and stepped back, hand over her mouth. That's when she noticed something carved into the side of the porch post, a crude symbol, 3 vertical lines crossed with a single slash, like a tally mark. She ran inside and locked every door. That day, she searched online, diving deep into forums, myth archives, anything she could find. There were vague mentions of whistling spirits in Appalachian folklore, skinwalkers, forest mimics, but one story came up more than once, an entity known only as the night whistler. No confirmed sightings, no photos, just the pattern. It whistled to be acknowledged, it knocked to be welcomed, and if you whistled back, it marked you. She hadn't whistled. Had she? A memory surfaced, faint, almost a dream. She'd mimicked the sound once as a teenager without thinking, walking back from a friend's house, just for fun. Had that been enough? The idea sickened her. That night, she made a choice. She wouldn't wait to become the next photo. She packed a bag, loaded the shotgun, took Gus, and drove. South. Away from Elm Ridge. Away from the trees. She didn't know where she was going, just anywhere with noise, light, people. But 30 miles out, the engine died. No warning, no sputter, just silence, on an empty road lined by trees. She got out and opened the hood. Nothing obvious. Her phone had no signal. And then she heard it, the whistle. Not distant anymore, not far, from behind her, just off the road, descending 5 notes. She turned, slowly, heart hammering against her ribs. There, just beyond the ditch, stood a figure. Tall, very tall. Its body thin and wrong, arms too long, joints bent the wrong way. Its face was blurry, as if the air itself refused to hold its shape. And it was still, completely still, except its lips were moving, shaping the whistle, again and again. She backed away. Her hands shook so hard she dropped the keys. Gus barked, feral, teeth bared. The figure took 1 step forward. She raised the shotgun. "Stay back!" It tilted its head, whistled again. Then moved, faster than anything had a right to move, across the road, into the trees on the other side, gone, no trace. She didn't sleep for the next 2 nights. The car worked again somehow. She drove to a hotel in the city. Noise, people, cameras. But even there, at 12:11 a.m., from the alleyway behind the building, she heard it. Whistling. She thought about leaving the country. It sounded absurd, but nothing else had worked. If this thing could follow her across counties, cities, what was distance anymore? But something stopped her. A single idea, growing louder than fear. What if running wasn't the solution? What if it only brought the whistler closer? She needed answers. If her grandmother knew something, and that old photo proved she had, then maybe Elm Ridge still held the key. So after 4 nights in the city, after 4 visits from the whistle, always at different windows, never the same direction, she returned. Elm Ridge was the same, quiet, watchful. She noticed people on porches peering from behind curtains, not many left out after dark. She wondered how many others had heard it and stayed silent, how many bore its mark. The cottage smelled of old pine and dust. The lights were off, but nothing inside had changed. She opened the attic again, this time with purpose, dug through boxes, letters, old journals. She found a notebook wrapped in cloth, pages yellowed, brittle with age. It belonged to her grandmother. The entries were sparse but clear. It mentioned the whistle, the first hearing in 1953. Her mother's cousin gone missing a month later. A strange knock, the same symbol carved into an old elm by the porch. And then one page with a single entry. He whistles to ask. He knocks to enter. He walks where fear grows. Never answer. Never return the tune. And if marked, burn the thread. What thread? Maya sat back on her heels, rereading it. The handwriting changed halfway through, as if rushed, shaky. Something had happened. The last page was blank, except for a small pressed flower, dry and blackened, tucked into the crease. That night she didn't sleep, she waited. At 12:08 the whistle came again. But something was different. It was higher this time. Wrong. Like a tape being played too fast. Then another knock on the attic hatch from inside. She screamed, backed down the stairs, grabbed the shotgun. The hatch remained shut. Silence followed. Then 3 soft thuds. Not wood, something heavier, like wet footsteps on the ceiling boards. She didn't sleep until dawn. The next day, she hiked to the edge of the woods behind the cottage. There, she found the elm her grandmother mentioned. The bark bore the same symbol, 3 lines crossed by 1. But beneath it, fresh carvings, dozens more, etched deep into the wood, circling the trunk, symbols, runes, tally marks. It wasn't old, it was recent. The whistler had been here. Maybe still was. And then she saw it, thread. Thin strands of red twine, barely visible, tied to the branches, hanging like cobwebs. One trailed all the way to her fence, wrapped around a post. She followed it. It led to her bedroom window, tied in a knot. She ran inside, grabbed a lighter, and burned it. The thread hissed, snapped. That night the whistle didn't come. Nor the next night. She hoped, almost believed it was over. Then Gus vanished. She'd only gone into town for groceries. Less than an hour. She came back and the gate was open. The leash snapped. No blood, no trail, just silence. And on the porch, another stack of stones. 6 this time, and a flower, dried, black. The one from her grandmother's journal. She broke down, wept for the first time. The whistler wasn't hunting her. It was breaking her, piece by piece. It had taken Evan, now Gus. Who next? She went back to the elm that night with gasoline and matches. She didn't care if it burned the whole forest. She poured the fuel, lit the flame. The fire spread fast, too fast. The branches snapped and crackled like screams. She stepped back, eyes watering from the smoke. But through the fire, across the blaze, something moved. A figure, tall, pale, unburned, watching her. It raised a hand, tapped its head, and whistled. Then it was gone. The fire department put it out before it spread far. She lied, said it was an accident. No one questioned her. She held the lighter to the last thread she'd found, wrapped around her own wrist, unseen until that moment. She burned it. The whistler screamed, not sound, light. The windows blew inward, the house shuddered. She stood her ground. "You don't own me," she said. The thing tilted its head, then vanished. Gone. No sound, no whistle. Just silence. Weeks passed, then months. The tune never returned. No knocks, no dreams. Gus never came back, nor Evan, but the thread was broken. Maya moved, found a new place. New town, no trees, no woods. Still, some nights, she hears wind against the glass. And sometimes, just barely, she hums the tune. But never whistles. Not ever again. The Night Whistler. In the eerie town of Elm Ridge, a mysterious whistle haunts the nights, drawing the attention of Maya Jenkins, a young woman living alone in her grandmother's cottage. As the whistle returns after years of silence, Maya becomes increasingly unsettled, especially when strange footprints and a stack of stones appear outside her home. With her brother's concern and the sheriff's dismissive attitude, Maya must confront the chilling mystery that lurks in the dark.